Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Harvey Levin here.
Fabian here.
Cache McClay.
So let's kind of start with Will Smith.
Sure. But where else can we start?
Well, we could have started with the Grammys, which we're going to get to.
Well, that's also Will Smith related. But anyway, go on.
Kind of is. But I want to start with Bill Maher.
Okay.
He's getting heat for things that he said on Friday night about what Will did, about alopecia, and about how bad alopecia is, as he says, in the context of life. So here's what he said, and then let's talk about it.
Can I ask about alopecia? Because I must admit, when I saw the thing on TV, then I go to the Vanity Fair party, great party, and then I didn't hear about it till then that she had, but you don't know she had alopecia. And I had heard this word, but it was vague in my mind what it was. So I went like, oh, well, that's a very different thing. And then I found out what it is, and I'm like, oh, no, it's not that different. I mean, if you are so lucky in life as to have that be your medical problem, just say thanks, God. It's not life-threatening. You know, it's part of, for most people, 80% of men, 50% of women, it's part of aging. Aging is, trust me, I know, it's the degradation of the flesh. It happens to all of us. And, you know, just put on a fucking wig like everybody else at the Oscars.
So that's what he said.
So can I explain the backlash? So the backlash, essentially Bill Maher was downplaying the importance or the severity of alopecia. He was basically saying it's balding. It's losing your hair. It happens to a lot of men, a lot of women, regardless of race, essentially. That was kind of what I understood. And the backlash is you sound like a tone-deaf white man because, I mean, in Cache, obviously you can speak to this more, but like there's an argument within the Black community that hair is perhaps more important to Black women specifically, especially on this front. The counter argument to that is, what are you talking about? Hair is hair. How can it apply to one race over the other? That's sort of my understanding, because that's sort of the conversation I've been seeing on Twitter. And look, Bill catches backlash all the time
on both sides.
On both sides, but this one specifically, there's a race element to it.
And if you think he's getting backlash from the left on this, you should hear what the right is saying after what he said about Lindsey Graham. But that's a whole other thing.
But
no, I agree. I feel like when I heard this, it's obviously coming from someone who haven't face discrimination against their hair.
Right.
So in the Black community, for women in general, hair is tied to self-worth.
Right.
And then
all women.
All women.
Right.
But for Black women specifically, a lot of systematic racism came through hair, and which is why the Crown Act, to protect natural hairstyles in workplaces, and
that's a new bill that was it signed into law?
It was signed in the House, and now it's on the Senate. So we have a bill to protect Black women from hair discrimination.
There's a bill working through Congress right now that directly addresses this.
Directly addresses it. So the fact that we have to have a bill in this day and age, it just speaks to this. And so for him and for a lot of Black women, we've always been criminalized and penalized for our hair. It's not professional. You can't wear this style.
Right.
So for him to say just throw on a wig is so much deeper than that.
So in your mind,
hold on. Let's say he didn't make the wig comment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take that part out of it.
That was insensitive. I'll just admit,
so let's take that part out. What about what he's now? Again, I think, you know, in a way, what this ultimately goes to is, was the joke outrageous enough to evoke the reaction from Will Smith? But that said, what about his point that in the greater scheme of things, you know, in terms of cancer and all the other things, yes, people, you know, and Black women do have a special feeling about hair, and I understand that. But in terms of it being an affliction, when he says comparing it to cancer and all the other things, what about that?
I still feel the same, because I feel like you can't separate the two as a Black woman. Like, it's not just hair. It was never just hair, which is why we have relaxers, which is why there is discriminate. It's a part of systematic racism. And hair is a big deal. We have documentaries on it.
Chris Rock.
Chris Rock. Exactly. And so
he produced a documentary exactly about this issue.
Exactly.
But you know, here's the thing too. This slap, I don't think, had much, if anything, to do with hair. I don't think this had anything to do with hair.
No,
and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because, and again, I mean, everybody's talked about this. Will Smith laughed. Jada Pinkett Smith rolled her eyes. But she had said 4 days earlier she didn't care what people said about her hair.
So mixed
What
messages from
people
Jada,
thought about-
obviously.
Well, she said- okay.
But I think this is so clearly, and I've been hearing this from people too who are kind of involved in all of this. This has to do with 2016. This has to do with the Oscars when Jada wanted to boycott. She asked Chris to boycott. He said, "Are you kidding me? I'm a black man hosting the Oscars. This is the whole point of inclusiveness." She didn't like it. He got on stage. He told a joke about her that was tough, and also told a joke about Will Smith. And what I've heard is, ever since then, there has been simmering anger that Jada and Will had toward Chris.
I think it's even
deeper.
deeper.
This just pushed the line.
I think it's deeper than that. I mean, yeah, there's the Chris Rock personal element, obviously, but like, there really is something going on with Will Smith internally. Like, take everything into context. Will Smith is a walking meme. He's a walking joke in Hollywood, not just Hollywood, but in the world right now, especially in the United States. And a lot of that has to do with his relationship with Jada Pinkett and the fact that they air everything out and the fact that she's sort of, in some people's eyes, sort of emasculated him. So I think there was a lot going on within him. I feel like he felt like, I'm the butt of a joke. People don't see me as like a man's man anymore, or if they ever did, and they kind of see me as soft. So I'm going to kind of correct that perception right now.
I mean,
made the wrong decision, obviously, but like, I think there's a lot going on behind that decision.
And that could be true. However, I don't want to minimize how big this issue was for her. I feel like it's one thing, like she said, to not think or like care what people thought about your hair, but get this, she's in front of millions of people. I think it's less about Chris Rock's comment, but it's more so about the stage that he had, and millions of people are laughing at her.
But wait a minute, but she said, "I don't care" 4 days earlier, number one. Number two, we don't know that, first of all, you know,
I don't care.
Hold on, I want to make
Okay.
one other point.
Okay.
Do you think Chris Rock listens to Red Table Talk?
No.
No, but-
Well, do you think it's possible he had no idea? No idea
Harvey,
that
I
she
didn't
had.
even know. A lot of people
I
had
didn't
no
know.
idea about the alopecia thing
Okay,
with Jada Pinkett.
so
Regardless of the fact that it was publicized, a shit ton of people did not know.
Okay, so
Well,
what if
he
that's
should have
what if?
known that.
Why?
No, I know you can't. Why?
Well, because he
Why?
did
Why?
a documentary about hair.
But he doesn't know about
He's-
everybody who has
Yeah.
alopecia
Yeah, Jada Smith made a huge
on Red Table Talk.
Yeah, but she's come out
Okay,
years.
I do
It's
this. I
absurd
do
to me
this.
to expect him to know
I do
that.
this for a living. What
We
we're
work
doing
in
now.
celebrity entertainment news.
I
didn't
didn't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay.
a lot of people didn't
well,
know.
either way, taking a jab at her hair.
But
it
wait
was,
a minute. Like Bill Maher said,
Okay.
when he made the comment, and what he said was, "That is the hottest Demi Moore ever looked." And look, you can buy that, you cannot buy it,
Right.
but it could just
Mm-hmm.
be that joke.
I mean, we can try to water it down and say, well, just maybe, well, possibly, it's
Well,
not
no,
that
but I
bad.
think you got to know that she had alopecia. Even, you know, everything you've said let's take as true. For what I'm hearing, he didn't know.
Okay.
And doesn't that make a difference?
It makes a difference in intent. However, she was still humiliated, still embarrassed because she does have alopecia.
But she
because
said she wasn't.
She says she doesn't care what people think.
But that
about
means
her
she's
hair.
not humiliated.
But we also have to make sure we consider the fact that she said in Hollywood, as a Black woman, she had to get the courage to embrace her hair. So 4 days later, she said, "I'm finally at a place where I don't care what people think about this bald head." And then someone goes on stage and humiliates her in front of millions of
But
people.
was that humiliation?
Yes. It was that's how she took it, and that's how Will.
But wait a minute, I don't know that she took it that way.
Why don't you think?
Because the eye roll again. This is
Well, so here-
this
can-
is what we're hearing. What I'm hearing is they were so angry at this guy over what he did in 2016. They were just waiting for something, and it came.
So can
But
I
it
just,
came because it was kind of a deep comment, right?
here's what I need to say, which is the obvious. We are projecting what we assume Jada and Will thought, or how deeply it offended her. We are projecting that without actually knowing.
Well, he said
We
it
don't-
on Instagram. He
Who
said,
said it?
Will Smith, his first apology to Chris Rock.
Uh-huh.
It mentioned, well, she's been battling with alopecia.
That's true.
So
he
think
he did directly, explicitly
Then
mention.
why
the
do
hair
you
element.
laugh?
That's a
it
good
could have
point.
Why
been a
did-
nervous laugh. I
That's-
have the same. It could have been. We can't assume we know if he was laughing with her, if he was just like so mad that he's
but
like.
Keshe, can I say, it's one thing to have a nervous laugh, but when you go from laughter to 10 seconds later, getting up, going on stage in the middle of the Oscars, slapping a guy, coming back, sitting down, screaming at him.
Yeah,
It feels it's a disconnect.
You never
It's
seen
the
those scary
ultimate-
movies
it's
where
a
they like
disconnect
laugh before they
overreaction.
like lose it? Like we just don't know how he acts in that moment.
I just had
Is
a
it
problem
also,
with
and this
it.
is a conspiracy theory, but is it also possible that Will Smith is using the alopecia thing as cover to avoid talk? I'm just saying, I know we have to take people's words at face value,
Yeah.
but like, is it also?
I mean,
it's-
we could
of course it is.
argue
The
that,
answer
but-
is yes. Of course it is.
but he
possible.
directly said that was the reason, though. So we
That's
don't
what I'm
have
saying.
to
Like, we can take
assume.
what he's saying at face value, but is it possible he's using that as a cover and not necessarily being totally forthcoming as to what actually
Which
led up
is
to
what?
it?
Which
I
is
don't know.
anger
What we're all-
toward Chris
what we're all
Rock.
speculating about.
Okay,
Anger toward
I
Chris
won't,
Rock.
I won't take away that he could have been angry at Chris Rock.
For other
However,
reasons,
They don't
yeah.
like
he was
each other.
completely livid because of this comment. So we can't undermine that.
Or was he livid because it was the last straw?
So we can't play
But
armchair
why was it the-
psychologists. Like we'll never know. That's the answer. Like we can sit here all day talking about it. We'll never know.
Well,
The
here's
only
what-
people who can actually address it is Jada and Will, and they should do that on the Red Table Talk.
Well,
And they're going to.
no.
I know they are. They're
Chris-
just waiting for things to blow over.
Chris Rock is the one you want to hear from.
Well, him too.
What did you know?
That is the reason why this story has persisted. I mean, besides the fact that it's a huge jump.
No.
I'm so sick of people saying, "Can we stop talking about it?" No,
No, we
it is
can't.
the biggest damn story in Hollywood in forever, frankly. And
Well,
the
not
fact,
forever.
and the fact, well, I mean, you're right, but like lately, and the fact that Will Smith and Chris Rock have been. I mean, Will Smith has said more than Chris Rock's, obviously, but the fact that Chris Rock has remained mum, it's like, dude, just speak your piece.
Well, he doesn't
Well, he
want
was
to. He
embarrassed.
doesn't want
You've
to.
had several days of process.
But he doesn't want to.
It's
I wouldn't
weird.
either.
I don't think it's weird. He's in the middle of it.
I also think that he doesn't really care as much as
I think
people.
you're right.
I think he doesn't care.
I think you're right.
And like, yeah,
But here's one of the reasons the story hasn't died. How could the Academy have made it worse than they did? I've been thinking about it this weekend. This was, I mean, the lies.
You're talking about the
the
finger
lies.
pointing from
No,
last
not
week?
just finger pointing. The lies.
Yeah.
That we
On
told him
multiple-
to
on multiple fronts.
We told him to leave,
You got
and
Will
he
Packer
and he
lying.
refused.
Will
Not
Packer
true.
lying
Will
and-
Packard lying.
And
I
speaking
mean-
on behalf of people too, speaking on behalf of the Academy, when he told Will Smith to stay, he spoke out of turn. He shouldn't have done that because they were undecided, but he took it upon himself to relay that message, which
Well,
was not
something had
clear.
to be
It
made,
never
though.
was said. It was never.
What was never said?
Chris Rock never told Will Packer, I want Will to
Well,
stay.
that's what I'm saying. So Will Packer,
never
he spoke out
told
of turn.
him
He
that.
spoke out of turn twice.
Not
over it.
out of turn. It's
Yes,
not.
he did. That's called
Okay.
out of
It's
turn.
not true.
What do you mean? He never.
Chris Rock never told
No, that's what
Will
I'm saying to
Packer.
you. Will
It's
Packer
not
told
true.
Academy
Yes.
honchos.
I mean, he was probably just trying to keep the peace. I mean, there was no right answer.
I don't suspect any malintent from Will Packer, but he did
Imagine
kind of
if-
screw up a little bit.
Well,
like-
imagine if he did kick Will out. Like that would have caused.
No, he couldn't. He doesn't have the power to. That's the point. Will Packer has zero power
Right.
to kick Will Smith out. It's
He's
the
just
Academy.
the producer of the broadcast.
Yeah,
and
it's
the
the
show and
Academy.
stuff.
He does whatever the Academy says. They couldn't reach a consensus.
So he jumped the gun and spoke for them when he
what-
shouldn't have done.
So wait a minute.
Did-
So
and he
is-
also jumped the gun and spoke for Chris Rock, which and maybe he misinterpreted.
but here's
Rock's
what's
words,
here's what's interesting. The Academy could have embraced
yeah, they're
what
just
Will
a bunch
Packer.
of indecisive.
Well,
I'm
well,
not to be
hold
crude,
on,
but
hold
yeah.
on. What they could have said was, "Hey, they could have gone with what Will Packer said. That yeah, we were thinking about kicking him out, but when Chris Rock said keep him there, we did." They could have laid it on that,
Rock, yeah.
but they didn't. As soon as that happened, we got calls from our Academy sources saying Will Packer did that. He is speaking for himself. The Academy had
Right.
nothing to do with that.
Right.
So they then started pointing fingers at Will Packer.
Yeah, but then the Academy lied by also saying that they asked Will Smith to leave, and
Yeah,
they never did.
totally
There's
lied
a lot of
about it.
lying,
Well,
and
yeah.
the other thing I was going to say, because you guys spoke about this last week, and I don't want to relitigate it too much, but the idea that the Academy could not come to a decision, and the idea that throwing Will Smith out would have made a bigger scene and made it more ugly, that to me is just full blown cowardice. Like you're more afraid of how things are going to look in optics than actually doing the right thing.
Well,
The right
not-
thing
well-
was to remove him.
Well-
remove him.
Of course.
Well,
know what
just
I mean?
imagine though. That is the
course.
right thing. I agree, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's more so about optics though. Like, imagine had he left. That means everybody. That's all anybody would have been talking
That's
about
what I'm
in
saying.
that moment.
That's the definition of optics.
But
how
what
it
if
looks
people
to
left
everybody
as
else.
well? What if it was like a complete argument, or like what? It's just not going to be him getting up and leaving. Like, okay, nothing ever happened.
I imagine if they would have asked Will Smith to leave and demanded he leave, he would have gone kicking and screaming probably.
Yeah.
Which would have been ugly, but you know what? It would have been ugly for Will Smith. His career would truly be over, and it would fall on him. The Academy, it's like screw it, it's already ugly.
Well, the
And
Academy
I don't care.
the Academy would have actually taken a stand. I see this a little different. I don't think this was fear on the part of the Academy, and I'll tell you why. Because
I think
If you're really, if
spineless.
everybody in that room were really afraid, he would not have gotten a standing ovation.
I agree.
Those
And
are,
I was
those are
going
the
to say that.
attendees. Those are
No,
the attendees.
I-
The
you know,
powers
it's
that
all-
be are the cowards.
It's all part of the same thing.
But what
It's
would have happened to the people
all
who were
part of the
clapping?
same thing.
They could have left. It could have
He
went
was
downhill.
he was a favorite son, and it's hard to process that and say he's no longer a favorite son in a nanosecond. It's just hard to do, and I think that's one of the reasons everybody stood up and seemed genuinely happy for him after he committed an assault and battery.
It was like shock almost. I don't think
I don't
didn't
think it
even
was
process.
shock.
I didn't even process what happened. Like a lot of people thought it was fake.
45 minutes after the slap,
There's enough time to process.
there
it
was
for
plenty
sure.
of time to
Chris
process
Rock
it.
is
We
still
watched it. We
processing
weren't.
it.
He claims he's still processing. I think he just doesn't. He
Chris-
doesn't care anymore.
Let me tell you, the first person who processed it, Chris Rock.
Yeah, he's
he
done
is the first
processing.
person who processed it because his face was ringing.
There's other Will Smith news we have to get to because this is all relitigating old stuff at this point. There's new information. The Grammys last night. Will Smith was the butt of some Grammys jokes. Not mercilessly. I thought they were going to truly go in on him, and it was going to be the conversation, the topic of the day. It wasn't. Trevor Noah opened up the show, and honestly, he was going through his monologue, kept it kosher. Not a lot of controversy. He didn't invoke Kanye even.
Right.
And it was just moving along. I was like, wow, is he really not going to address anything? And then finally he gets the jab in and he says, we're going to be singing music. We're going to be giving out awards and we're going to be keeping people's names out of our mouths. And that's where the subtle jab came in. He didn't say Will's name.
I thought that was actually really
It was
cool.
actually
Very
really well
tasteful.
done for
Yeah.
sure. And it's interesting with Trevor Noah specifically because we remember last week where Trevor Noah was at the Oscars after party, consoling Will, chatting him up, embracing him in a hug. So you got to think that they're friends or on good terms in some capacities. So I think Trevor Noah kind of threaded the needle as far as like not being too harsh on Will because he has a relationship with Will, but also having to address the elephant in the room because it still is the biggest topic in Hollywood today. So Trevor Noah did a good job.
Yeah, he did a great job. And that was interesting. I got to say, I just thought it was such a great move for Zelensky to do that pre-recorded message. And because it's interesting to me, he skipped the Oscars. The Oscars wanted him for that for a while. And remember, Amy Schumer was talking about it.
No. It's not that the Oscars.
She was talking about it.
she said she floated the idea
Right.
and that the Academy shot her down.
This was days after she floated it. If Zelensky said, I want to do it for the Oscars, I assure you, he would have been in
So
the
then
Oscars.
why do you think he skipped the Oscars?
Because
it's on him then.
Well,
He's
that
the
was a
one who
good move.
decided not to do the Oscars.
I'll tell you.
and not-
I'll tell you why.
It's a weird move.
It isn't. I'll tell you why. I think music means something special in Ukraine right now. When you look at the violinists who are who's serenading the refugees, music plays a big part there. And he talked about how important music was. And, as part of his pitch. And it just felt very authentic. It felt like he connected with that. And I felt it was really one of those moving, incredible moments.
I have a different take on this.
What is it?
Zelensky honestly had no business beaming into the Oscars or the Grammys.
Why not?
Because he's in the middle of a war. It sends the wrong message. You should be he is on the ground.
He's
but
definitely on the ground.
He's spending too much time doing this like beaming in. He's on a beaming
But
in tour right now.
He's trying to get support.
What support? What does he expect that? What does he want
Because
Hollywood to do?
No.
There's nothing more we can do.
It's not Hollywood.
It's
not Hollywood. It's America.
Yeah.
What
does that mean? There's no more sympathy you can get from me at this
What
point.
it means,
Really,
what it
that's the
means
truth.
is you
I don't
want
know the
Congress.
sympathy.
He wants Congress to fund more support for Ukraine, and Congress will do it if he knows that the people of America want it. If they know that the people of America want it, and that an election is coming up, and people who do this have a righteous position. I think it really helps. I think it's lobbying.
I think it was a good move. And right after the slap, I saw on Twitter and on social media, everybody stopped talking about the war in Ukraine. So I think it just puts the conversation back on the table.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's about sympathy. I think it's more so about awareness. And I think it was.
And also-
Awareness? Wait, who's not aware?
okay.
What? Awareness? What are you
Awareness.
talking about?
I would-
Everybody's aware.
aware,
would-
but making sure we
Yeah.
don't forget to have that. Like we're
I
talking about
would-
it now.
I would
Like,
argue
it's
as this
just-
war
it was
drags
empty,
as this
empty,
war
empty
drags on,
message.
as this war drags on.
And it will continue dragging us. Everybody's going to keep getting
But
beam
it's-
in, beam
yeah,
out.
I think that's
because it's
okay.
hard.
So what do you want us to do?
Money,
Like I'm not going to
money,
I'm not going
support.
to call in and
Money.
write to my congressman and say
Some
"You
people
need-"
would.
But some people will.
Yeah,
But that's democracy. That's democracy.
It just it,
But
it
that's
comes off as
democracy.
a little craven.
So
in my
you're tired of
opinion.
hearing about it.
You know what? That's the insensitive way to put it. But yes, the answer is yes. I'm not going to be a phony and say I am a little tired of hearing about it. I can acknowledge that it's a terrible situation. But what the hell do you want me to do?
But that's a lucky
point?
position
you know
to
what I
have.
mean?
I would rather be tired of it than being in it. So it's just like,
helicopters.
That goes without saying, obviously.
of course, right.
Yeah.
So with that, it's like,
Yeah, I mean they need.
I'm sorry, this is going to get me canceled because I'm saying.
No, I
that
mean
we-
you
can
have
we-
you have an
now
absolute
I'm
right
the
to
guy-
say.
Now I'm the guy saying, can we stop talking about Ukraine already? Now I sound like an asshole, which might be the case. But anyway,
I thought. Listen, I think
you know,
that
different
this-
opinions.
thi-
Different opinions.
This is
Different
this
opinions. Okay.
this is a
It's okay.
guy. This is a guy who believes in democracy.
Sure.
Who has seen his people rally around his cause and the country's cause,
Yeah,
and he knows the power of people. People, when they marshal their resources together and they get upset and they feel that they want to get behind a cause, they can change things.
Well-
Let me just make my point.
Go ahead.
Vietnam War, I was around, and young people changed this country by
By
protesting.
ending that war.
But you know how they
The
ended
United
it?
States
But
cannot end this war.
do you know
we
how-
cannot
We can
end
Well,
this
no, no, no.
war.
end the
But do you
war.
know
We
how?
can send all the
Do
money
you know
in the
how
world
young
and
people?
equipment
Do you know
we
how
want, but it's
young
not gonna
people
end
ended
this
the war? Do you know how young people ended that war?
It's apples to oranges.
No,
Harvey.
it's
not
not.
the same situation. We
It's-
were involved in that war. We were directly involved in that war on the ground. We're not on the ground here. We're not going to be on the
But what
ground
he's
ever.
but what he's
Not in Russia.
you know what? There is more support for Ukraine than any war in my
That's
lifetime.
easy. That's an easy.
Well,
that's
then-
like an easy thing
then-
to get
then-
behind.
Then
it's like
he
there's
then
no,
he wants the layup. Then he wants the layup. He needs more money. They're built. Listen, there are mass graves right now
Yeah,
where they're
I'm
dumping
aware. I'm aware.
hundreds of people in there. He needs money. He needs missiles. He needs helicopters. He needs tourniquets. He needs first aid. He
Sure.
needs doctors. And this is the way to do it.
yeah.
I mean, this
Agreed.
is the way to do it.
How else would people get behind it if he's not making sure that
Well,
the
that's the thing.
conversation's
It's not
on the
about
table?
people getting behind it. It's like, look, I'll just make this point, and this is I'm not an expert on this, but like I feel like we could throw all the money and the equipment we want. That's not going to end this war. And I mean, Zelensky has made it clear he wants us to get involved like directly, and we're not going to do that.
It
So
will
he-
help
he
end the
can-
war, though.
Huh?
More weapons, more money for soldiers will help end the war. Or help. I mean,
It's true.
We'll see. I don't know.
Fabian, I love your honesty.
One other
I
really
thing-
mean it.
One other thing I want to get to with Will Smith. There was an interesting story we did this weekend that was reported on. So Will Smith, and as far as like the fallout of all this and how this is going to affect his career, it's already kind of taking shape. So there's a report out saying that both Netflix
And Apple.
and not Apple, no, Netflix and Sony for now are pausing his projects, which are in pre-production. One from Netflix is called Fast and Loose. And one in Sony's The Bad Boys 4 movie, which has already been announced. It was apparently they were saying that he already received 40 pages of a script that's already been written, and yet they're pausing it.
So why is Netflix pausing it? Why are they pausing it?
because of its optics again. Like, look,
It's optics.
It is optics. They're just putting Will Smith on timeout. That's what Hollywood, I think, is doing. They're putting him on timeout. He's not going to be canceled.
Isn't
will say,
this
though-
ridiculous?
What do you mean? Like in the sense that they have to pause it? The fact that they have to pause it at all?
They don't have to pause it. They've chosen to pause it.
That's what I'm saying.
That
Yeah.
Hollywood is the most reactive little silo in the country. It's like
It
they're
is.
all so raw and
fake,
sensitive.
and super fake.
I mean, come on,
It's the old-
Netflix. I mean,
I
if
don't-
you wanted to do a movie, he slapped a guy on stage. I get it. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, you're pausing a movie that you're going to fire up again in 2 months.
That's 100% true. And that there's
but
other,
if they didn't, people will have something to say. Like, I mean,
Well, but
I guess
people
you're
have
right,
something
but
to
how-
say
but
about
people would-
breathing.
Yeah, but would people, actually,
True.
would people know about that if the production's proceeded? And this is stuff that happens behind the scenes, by the way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so anyway, if they're pausing it. It's weird too because like you know, I Am Legend, that
Yeah.
Yeah.
I Am Legend. That was a week or two ago. It was announced that Michael B. Jordan is going to be teaming up with Will Smith for the sequel. It's a Warner Brothers production. There's no word on whether they're pausing that. There's another movie from Apple coming out with him that's already in the can. It's called Emancipation. Tons of Oscar buzz, and there's no word on when it's coming out or anything. So I agree. It's silly that Hollywood feels
Right.
like studios feel like they need to. We have to like make sure we pause it and put it. And the reason why this report is out is because these studios wanted it out. They wanted it out saying, "Oh look, we're taking a stand.
We're
well, what
taking
should
a
they
stand.
We're
do?
taking a
Should they
stance
just
against
go
Will
on as
Smith."
normal?
It's like, come on, dude.
Cachet, they're gonna do this movie in 2 months.
They're gonna do it, but
movie.
what should so just go on as normal?
Yes.
Then people will be.
I mean, come on. It's
Yeah.
they're doing this. Which way is the wind blowing?
I think what Hollywood and what studios and like I think what the world collectively is trying to figure out is how big of a deal is this Will Smith slap
Yes,
actually?
I agree.
And like I agree, like the one thing I'll acknowledge acknowledge that it was horrible. Like it was horrible and more to me surreal. Like the fact that you could actually muster yourself up to get up there and slap somebody in the middle of a broadcast and you're aware.
It's crazy.
It's literally insanity in my opinion. I'm sorry, not to be mean, but it's fucking insanity. With that said, though, as far as like the big picture, how big of a deal is it? Probably not that big of a deal.
I
honestly.
will say, I don't think people are like disagreeing that it was bad. Like I think everybody knows it's bad. But I think
right.
now the question is, does he deserve grace? Can he be forgiven? Can we move
Yes.
forward?
Yes.
And part of the reason for that is because Will Smith has a ton of goodwill. He's done good things. He's up until now he's a good guy. I think
He's still a good guy.
He's still a good guy. He did a bad thing.
So
He's
why-
a good guy.
so
He did
why-
a bad thing,
right.
which is
Right.
So
awful,
why
but, like,
cancel it?
We're not trying to cancel him.
But no, you're not trying to.
Hollywood is fake canceling him right now.
Hollywood
Because
is
they
fake.
don't want to get
It is
canceled.
fake.
Netflix doesn't want to get canceled.
Exactly. I mean, Netflix just dealt with the whole Dave Chappelle thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, which way's the wind blowing right now? What's Twitter saying about this stuff?
Right.
And I mean,
That's true.
Well, no,
What's
but that's
Twitter
like what
saying?
Bill Maher said, on TMZ Live last week.
Yeah.
Which is, everything's fine. Oh, wait a minute. People in Twitter are offended. I must be offended then.
Yeah. Let
It's
me look it up.
just ridiculous.
I will say
It's the way of
though,
our world,
A
though.
last word, Cachet.
yeah,
please.
well, his second apology that he issued on Friday, I thought it was more genuine. I was
It
like, okay,
was.
this is an
100%
apology. Because
was.
that first post on Instagram, I was like, Will, I'm still a work in progress. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
So the second apology, I am more happy with that. If
And
that
he
means
resigned. We
anything.
forgot to mention that. Did he
resigned.
acknowledge that? He
Yeah.
resigned from the. And by the way, we should clear that up too because there's so much misinformation about what that actually means to resign from the Academy. Pending the actual disciplinary
He
action,
can still get awards.
he could still get awards. He could still be invited back to go to the show. All he can't do at this point is vote. I mean,
Yeah.
who gives a shit?
Who
Honestly,
cares?
But it is something that he didn't have to resign.
He didn't have to resign. But he was
Oh,
probably
wait a
going
minute,
to
but
be,
there's one more
he was probably
thing.
going to be expelled. I feel like
Fabian,
they were going to lay down the hammer.
God, you
hard
are
on
missing
him.
such a big point.
What?
He's not getting the screeners.
I can get the screeners more before Will Smith can. That's the truth.
And with that, we'll see you Wednesday.
Yes, we will.